everyone, welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be all about the mistakes that I made when playing Genshin in the past, and if I had to redo Genshin again and start a new account, this is what I would do differently. So I know some of you are starting new accounts and are replaying Genshin, but I want to make that process easier for you guys and don't want you to have to go through the struggles that I went to while playing Genshin for the first time. So I've compiled all of my top tips for people starting new accounts or maybe beginners in Genshin that haven't played at all, or perhaps you are a long-time player and just want to hear a few things that you can do to enhance your Genshin experience if you haven't already been applying these strategies. There are tips in this video for all levels of players, whether you are a day one Genshin player or someone that is just starting out. I hope you find something useful. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments and let's get started. The most important thing that I feel like everyone should know is you need to prioritize getting stamina for your Genshin account. Now, if you have been neglecting the Statues of the Seven and haven't been collecting animoculi, geoculi, or any other oculi, I highly recommend that you get started on that. Or if you are redoing a Genshin account and starting again, the first thing you want to do is focus on getting the maximum stamina for your stamina bar. As you can see, if you give your oculi to any statue, you will get stamina, so it doesn't really matter which region you do as long as you max out that stamina as soon as possible. Just remember that having enough stamina is going to help you in the abyss or exploring or anything in general, so it's always better to have that. Also, in order to advance faster in Genshin and clear more content, you're going to want as much stamina as possible. Having a stamina bar that is only this little amount is not going to help you, and you're going to want as much as you can, which is why I should have gotten my max stamina sooner. I waited a little bit longer than usual to get mine fully maxed out, but the moment that you have the ability to get oculi and give it to the statue, you want to do that right away. I suggest collecting the oculi in Mondstadt and Liyue, since they have the easiest to get oculi and also there is the least amount as well. Also, I feel like the terrain and puzzles and everything for getting oculi in Mondstadt and Liyue is much easier, since a lot of the other regions have oculi locked behind chests or they're locked with some sort of mechanism, whereas the ones in Mondstadt and Liyue are just literally in plain sight and all you have to do is like climb a rock or something. It's really easy, and I'd rather you not lose your sanity over getting stamina, so you're just gonna want to get the easiest method possible for getting more stamina. The next thing that you're gonna want to do is be sure to mark off what you've collected on your map, whether that be shrines, oculi, or anything. You need to keep track of what you are collecting and don't slack off on marking things on the map. You can do that either on the mini map itself and just put a pin down, or I suggest using the interactive map. Now, you don't have to do this with every single chest if that isn't your style, and also if you don't have the interactive map handy, but I highly recommend doing this for any shrines or oculi that you've collected. This is especially important so that you don't have to go back and double check what you've already done, or even if you are doing a puzzle that has different components coming from different parts, you're gonna just want to mark it off. If ever there's a thing that requires you to collect multiple pieces from something, whether that be for a world quest or any sort of completion achievement, whatever it is, just mark it on your map. When I was starting out in Genshin, I had no idea that the interactive map existed, so obviously I just aimlessly collected all of these oculi and these chests in the open world, and I didn't really bother to mark them on the interactive map. That's pretty much because I didn't know it existed and didn't know you could do that. But eventually, when it was time to start collecting all the oculi or any sort of thing that you need to deposit, such as the crimson agate or whatever it is, when I realized that I hadn't marked off which ones I've already collected, it was much harder to find the ones that I was missing. Now, I know you can craft resonance stones and all of that, but it is much easier to just mark it on your map and save all those precious resources to get something else, since you don't want to be spending your valuable resources and time you used to collect those resources to get something that you could have just done in the past. So if you mark off your collected oculi, shrines, whatever it is, then you don't have to use all the oculi resonance stones or anything to find it again. My best recommendation is to mark off everything, whether that be a challenge, puzzle, mechanism, anything like that that requires you to claim rewards. It's always better to just mark it on your map or use the interactive map. That way it'll be easier to check if you've already gotten it in the future. Also, if you are trying to 100% exploration, you don't want to be rechecking areas that you've already gotten. So if you don't decide to do the interactive map method, you can just put a pin in a location such as this one, and you can write chest here. And then if you notice there's an area of pins that is very concentrated, then you'll know you don't have to check in that location because you've probably already gotten all the chests from there, and you can just move on and find a new location such as this one where there are no pins. Obviously this wouldn't work for every single circumstance, but it is much easier to have them marked off already, and it'll make your exploration progress much easier. Coming from someone that wants to get every single Primogem in her map, trust me, it's going to help you if you decide to mark off everything. If you are free to play like me and you want to get every single Primogem, the best method that you could do is mark down everything you've collected, and that way you can ensure that you've gotten everything and aren't missing anything. The next tip that I really feel like I should mention and is going to be crucial for those of you starting out in Genshin, or even if you are a late game player and still want advice for building your account, one thing you need to note is don't build every character you get. Now I know that getting a new character that you don't have yet can be pretty exciting, however there is a chance that this character just isn't really that good. Now I don't mean this to slander any characters, every character is unique whether that be their design or their skill set, however depending on your endgame goals, not every character is going to be best suited for it. For example, you might enjoy a character like Lisa because of her design and her personality and story and everything, but we all know that there are stronger characters for clearing endgame content that have much better abilities than Lisa does. Or another example of that would be someone like Noelle, where we know that there are other characters that can replace Noelle in the late game, someone like Zhongli with a much stronger shield, or Layla if you have her, or just characters with other potential and are a lot better than more than just the early game. Sometimes pulling for characters can be super overwhelming since there are so many characters to pull for, and sometimes getting a character for the first time might seem like an amazing thing because you got a character that you don't have yet and you want to try them out. However, I do warn you that you need to hold off on building every single character. I even regret raising these characters up to level 20, even if it was for the free wish. I feel like that XP could have been used for a different circumstance and that it was a waste to build these certain characters. Now of course if you love the character so much then go ahead and build them, but do not start building every single character that you get on your account. Even if you say that you're going to want to invest in them and play them later, such as some of the characters I said like Farazan and Yunjin, which were characters I wanted to build but ended up changing my mind, it's better to leave them at level 1 until you fully committed before you start leveling them up very slowly. Some of those characters I regret raising are characters like Barbara and Razor and even Hazel, but I've actually changed my mind and wanted to build him as an Anemo DPS since I don't have Wanderer, so at least we will be making use of him for now. But basically what I'm trying to say is if you don't have your mind set on building them 100%, then don't even think about spending those resources. I'm sure that you decided to play Genshin for a reason, and if that reason is to get a certain character, then obviously you will want to save up your pulls to get that character. Don't spend any resources such as XP, Primogems, Mora, or whatever raising the character that you don't want to get. For example, if you are saving up for Xianyin, who is coming very soon, then you're going to want to save all your EXP books and weapon materials and everything to build her because you actually want to build her, as opposed to building a 4-star character that you just happen to get from the gacha and wasting all your time on building a character that you might not even commit to. The best thing you can do is set your mind on a singular team or 2 teams and build the characters surrounding there. Try not to change your characters and teams too much, and you usually want to base it off a really strong DPS character that you got. For example, if I recently got Hu Tao, I'm going to want to build teams around Hu Tao. Those teams could be a vaporized team with Xingqiu and Yelan, or if you don't have Yelan, you can always build it around another character. But the main thing you're going to want to do is focus on singular teams and don't keep switching out the characters. It's better to invest in a really strong team early on and then branch out as you have more resources, as opposed to spending all your resources in the early game and then narrowing down your choices in the late game. It may seem like you have an abundance of resources after exploring Mondstadt and Liyue, but trust me, it's going to get a little bit harder to get everything you need, so you're going to want to save every last resource. If you're wondering on my account why I have so many resources, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's from saving. However, I have been dipping into my XP supply as well as some weapon enhancement materials because I have been raising more characters lately, and also I've been dipping into my Mora as well. But the point being here is that you're going to want to save up really early and try not to spend on every single character you get until you have your mind set on the characters you want to play. The next really important tip that you guys should take note on is not to spend your craftable weapon billets. Now, these billets, there are a lot of them in the early game. At least that's what my experience is. I know that you can easily get access to these, but as you level up, the abundance of these begins to decline. Now, I use these very rarely because I want to save up and I know how valuable they are. So if you have these in your inventory, whether you are an early game or late game player, just save them up and don't waste them on weapons that you don't think you're going to use. I know I wasted a claymore billet because I wanted to make the white blind for Noelle. As we know, I don't play Noelle, I don't even use the white blind, and I don't even think it's leveled up, so it was a complete waste of my resources, and I really wish that I could get that billet back and forge something else. If you are wondering which weapons to craft with these billets, the answer that I can give to you is look at the characters that you have and make decisions based on that. For example, I have Kazuha, which is why I wanted to build the Iron Sting, since it has elemental mastery and it's going to help my account. Another example is for Nahida, I use sacrificial fragments. Now I know you can use Mappa Mera because it also has elemental mastery, I believe. However, since my account does have this book and it is significantly better, that's why I refrained from crafting the Mappa Mera and I'm just sticking to Sacfrag. So just because you have the crafting recipe and the materials to craft it, don't craft it. That is unless you have an actual purpose to, but if not, then it's a complete waste of your time and resources, and who knows when you're going to come across another one. Just remember that it's better to save up all those rare resources in the early game and spend them when you actually need to. That also goes for these billet troves that you can get through Stellar Reunion. I know a lot of you are rejoining Genshin, so I'm sure that you have some of these in your inventory. As you can see, I haven't opened any of them yet, and I don't think I've ever opened a billet trove since I made my account, and that's mostly because I have a bunch of billets as well, but I also want to open this if I really need to. As of now, I clearly don't because I already have these billets, but I'd rather have the opportunity to choose what I need as opposed to already choosing it and then regretting it and having to wait until I get another one. Remember that these things don't come easy, so it's better to save it up until you really need it than to use it now and regret your decision later. Also, you might notice that a lot of my crafted weapons are only at R1, and that's because I really don't feel like there is a purpose to refining them even further. I know it makes your weapon stronger, but again, I do not have a lot of billets and I don't want to be spending my resources on just making one weapon stronger. Personally, I feel like refinement 1 is already strong enough for these characters, and I really don't think I need to boost them up even more. But if you are in my situation and you have a character that you really want to invest your time into and you want to R5 their weapon, then totally go for it. But personally, I just don't think I need it for my account, and I already have plenty of R5 weapons that I can get from the gacha or through events. Either way, if you are deciding whether you should make a lot of different weapons or refine just one weapon, it's better to craft a bunch of different weapons that you can use for your account than just make one character's weapon really strong. I'm also not saying this as a blanket statement for everybody, just make sure to look into your account before you make that decision, and the circumstance may differ based on the person's status in the game. Another important tip that I feel like you guys should know, and this one can actually apply to any late game players or mid game players that are still progressing through the story, but if you are an early game player or rejoining Genshin, starting Genshin for the first time, whatever it is, the moment you get a Genshin quest, just do it. Now, I know that some quests take hours to do. Don't get me started on the Aranara quest or anything like Inazuma. I know that quests take a long time, but if you notice that a quest exists and it looks like it's not going to take a long time, just complete the quest. This mostly applies for world quests and not really story quests and Archon quests, but if you see a new quest appear in your quest menu, try to complete that as fast as possible, because there really are no downsides to completing a quest really quickly. Since you get all the resources you need, you can get primogems and also other experience materials. The most important thing is it gets out of your way. I know some friends that play Genshin and have a huge quest menu that you can just keep scrolling infinitely, but the thing is they can't progress in the Archon quest because too many quests need to be completed before you can continue. You definitely don't want one of those experiences where you are stuck on a certain part of a quest because you need to complete other ones, so the moment that you have the opportunity to complete a quest, go ahead and do it. I know that there are some quests that are pretty difficult. If you can do them in co-op mode, I highly recommend doing that. If you need help fighting difficult enemies, I have a Discord server linked in the description. Perhaps you can join and find someone to help you out. But if some quests are not completable in co-op mode, then obviously you can save those quests for later, or if the quest is a really long quest such as the desert quest in Sumeru, then you can hold those off. However, if you think they're going to be really short, it's better to complete them now and not get in your way later, because you don't want to be caught up in an Archon quest but then prevented from moving forward just because you haven't completed any prerequisite quests. Also, I feel like it can be so overwhelming as we go into further updates and they add more content in Genshin. You don't want to see a bunch of quests just lining up in your quest menu, because then they're going to overwhelm you and make you feel burnt out knowing that you have a lot of things to do. One thing I always like to do is have a clear and empty quest menu and try try my best to complete everything that's on the list. It took me a really long time to clear out this quest menu, so don't worry, I know how it feels. But honestly, completing quests can be really good to advance your account. Again, like I mentioned, it gives you resources, but also it can help you unlock new areas to explore. If you're getting bored of exploring a singular area and you want to start farming for primogems or any other resources, you don't want to be stuck in an area that is quest locked, especially when there are a ton of resources in that certain area, but you just can't get in there because there's a quest that you need to complete and blah blah blah. So it's better you complete those quests to make your farming in the future much easier. Also, I know that some early game quests, especially in Mondstadt, they can sometimes grant you access to really cool things such as weapons or even really strong recipes for certain kinds of foods. Getting your hands on these items that you get from quests can be really helpful for progressing your account, since as we know it can help to make your account stronger, but also it just helps if you are a Genshin completionist. Okay, here is another tip that I have for you guys. This tip actually will apply to some of our late game players in the upcoming updates, and also some of the new players that are just exploring Genshin for the first time. One thing that I found to be really important when you are exploring Genshin is you need to unlock the map and waypoints. I feel like I can't express it enough. It is super important that you unlock these waypoints because of how much it will change your exploration experience. Now I know that unlocking every single waypoint depending on the region is really difficult, and trust me, it took me a long time to unlock even every waypoint of Sumeru Desert, but at least unlocking the Statues of the Seven is another important thing you're going to want to do. The moment you get access to roam around the map and have freedom of just exploring, you need to go ahead and unlock those Statues of the Seven just so that you can open that area of the map. Now, not only will this help with navigation a lot, but it also will help in case you have a boss in that area or materials you need to collect. If you did just get a new character that requires materials from a new region, it's better to have the map unlocked so that you can easily get their materials, or if their boss is also in that area, it's just so much easier navigating with a map than not having a map. I can't imagine exploring Genshin without one, so I highly recommend opening up the map as soon as possible. If you really are determined to make progress in Genshin quickly, opening the map can make a huge difference to the speed of exploration on your account, or even if a quest is located in that area, having the teleport waypoints that are easily accessible or a map to visualize it will drastically make a difference for the speed of exploration. Also, just remember that opening up the map grants you XP and also those juicy primogems, so it's not like your time is completely wasted. Also, if you decide to do an exploration day where you mainly just walk around the map and unlock any chests or puzzles, you can also do waypoints as well as that, and depending on the route that you take around an area, you can basically hit every single chest and puzzle along the way while also exploring waypoints. So having a map exploration day can pretty much be a good idea to make some progress on that account you have. For me, I like to focus on one section at a time on an area in the map, and I normally like to unlock everything in that area, so the moment I walk into that space in the map, for example a temple in the desert, I'm gonna want to take everything there so I never have to return to that place ever again. And personally, I feel like this method is really useful since I don't have to return to a spot again unless it's for a quest or some other reason. But the moment I get into that area, I'm gonna check on the interactive map every single thing that's in that little circle or radius or whatever, and I'm not gonna return unless I actually have to. Also, a side note update, guys. Ta-da! Look at the desert. Okay, so I spent a lot of time farming the desert, and that's mainly because I want to pull for Venti in the upcoming update. And just so you know, I used the interactive map, so I made sure to get every single chest and puzzle in this area. So I know that you're gonna say 100% doesn't mean you got everything, but in this case, I did get everything because I focused on exploring with the interactive map. But if you guys don't have the desert explored yet, this is your sign. I actually found a better method for exploring the desert, and if I need to elaborate on this later, I am totally okay with doing that. But for any of you that are exploring it, the best thing you can do is just go in room by room and temple by temple. Like, if you look at this thing as a whole, obviously it's pretty overwhelming, but when you actually break it down, like for example this singular stretch of land right here, there are probably going to be about 5 to 7 chests or puzzles or mechanisms in this area, and all you have to do is clear them all out, and then you can move on to the next section, which would be this long slithery thing over here, and it's all going to be on one level, and it's not as bad as it seems. Okay, so I just went on a tangent there, but I'm so excited that I explored the desert. I guess if any of you are interested, this is my primo count right now. It's not back up to the numbers we used to have before because Risley ate all my primogems. I am missing a few of them, so that's too bad, but I know that exploring the desert definitely did help a lot. So if you haven't done it yet, this is your sign right now. Okay, anyways, for their next tip, thing I want to mention is you're going to want to set up the teapot as soon as possible. Once you finish that Leeway Archon quest and you get the teapot quest, don't let it sit in that event menu. You just need to do the quest. I know it's a long quest, just get over with it because the teapot will grant you a bunch of valuable resources, and the moment you enter your teapot, craft something, make a furnishing, increase your trust rank, do whatever you can to get these realm coins as soon as possible. And once you can farm those realm coins, then you have access to this lovely looking store right here where you can buy resin, hero's wit, mystic enhancement ore, mora, artifact exp, and a lot more things. Not to mention you can also get primogems from your teapot. That's if you decide to do the method that I mentioned in my video before, which is farming through friendship sets, or just leveling up in general and getting to the highest trust rank will grant you rewards along the way. It's kind of like the TCG thingy, but for those of you that are eligible to do the Leeway Archon quest and proceed with the story, just finish the Archon quest and get the teapot, and then you can do your other stuff, because it's better to have your teapot sitting and waiting and generating all this realm coins while you're AFK or doing other things on Genshin than to do those other things and then set up the teapot. Having the teapot as early in the game as possible is going to be really beneficial for resource collection, because then you can build the characters that you want and not have to worry about farming ley lines or any additional material collection. I think most of you guys already know how much I love the teapot, so I'm always going to mention it in every single video, but trust me, it's going to be super helpful because you can basically get everything from the teapot at this point since they have all the new farming systems and not to mention music, games, whatever. It's basically like Genshin 2.0. Okay, for this next tip, this is going to be crucial if you want to make fast progress in Genshin. As we know, we have hangouts and we have story quests, the tribal chronicles in Natlan as well, but also we have the main Archon quests, and there are a lot. Like, a lot. Why does Sumeru need this many Archon quests? But anyways, again on the topic of quests, in order to make faster progress in Genshin, you need to do the one thing that will advance you in the game, and that is completing the Archon quest, and as well as any other quests related to the Archon quest. Now what I mean by this are the story quests that are related to the Archon quest, such as Ayaka and Yoimiya, as well as Nilu's quest, which I believe you still have to do, I'm not sure, but these are all quests that are absolutely necessary in order to progress further. There are some story quests that are prerequisite quests in order to do other quests, and man, am I saying quests a lot in this video, but as we know, these character quests are different from the Archon quest, and that's because they're centered around a character, and not every single one of them is crucial for advancing in the story. You can completely skip an entire character and never do their quest, but still make a bunch of progress in Genshin, and it won't hinder anything. However, there are some quests that you need to unlock bosses, such as Raiden Shogun's or Zhongli's story quest number 2, but what I sort of mean by this are characters that are placed in the later game, such as Wriothesley or Navia or Clorinde. All of these story quests are not necessary in order to make progress in the game. If you have a limited amount of time to play on Genshin, it's better to skip over these story quests that are just long. Some of them may be boring. Now again, I'm not talking about the character, I'm not slandering any of these characters. I'm looking at this from an objective standpoint when you are trying to make progress in Genshin, but just so you know that these story quests take about an hour and a half if you decide to read all the dialogue. If you decide to skip the dialogue, it can take you about 45 minutes to around 50 minutes, but the main thing to take away is that they take a long time. So if you don't have to do it, then there really is no need and no rush to do it. Again, there's primogems, there's rewards, there's everything, but if your main goal is to progress further in the Archon quest, then you might not really want to think about story quests at the moment. This advice mostly goes for someone that is still midway through the Archon quest and they're probably in Sumeru right now, or just starting Fontaine, something like that. If your quest menu is piling up with millions of characters, just know that you don't have to do every single one of them, and you can always do this in the later game. I know that I didn't do Emily's story quest until so much way later, and the same applies for these hangouts as well. These are not necessary in order to make progress, but if you are farming primogems or any rewards, then yes, you can do these. But even for me, I didn't complete Chongyun's hangout quest until the day of filming this video, and we all know that Chongyun's hangout has been out forever. So the takeaway for this tip is just skip over story quests that are not crucial to the main story, because they may veer you off course of your main goals in Genshin and hinder you from making faster progress, so you can hold off on doing all these quests until way later, as opposed to doing those quests now. As for our last tip, I want to give you all a little message for those of you who are interested in spending money in Genshin. Now, as you know, personally, I am free-to-play player, and I believe that you don't have to spend money in Genshin in order to enjoy it, especially if it is a free game. But if any of you really want to get a character and don't have enough primogems to pull for them, the advice I can give you is actually just to wait for the rerun. At least that's what I did when I was still broke in the really early game. Now just remember that your account is owned by you, so whatever you decide to do, that is completely up to you. Please take this advice with a grain of salt, and it really depends on the circumstances you're in. But if any of you are considering on buying the battle pass or Welkin or whatever, I'd say save your money and buy something else instead. Remember that this is also still just a game, and you don't always need to spend on it just to enjoy it. Also, I honestly feel like things are more rewarding when you don't spend money on Genshin, since every character that you pull, you've basically earned them because you didn't buy your way through it. This is no hate whatsoever to anyone that has spent on Genshin. If you have pulled for a character that you absolutely love, then I give you the best of luck when you are pulling for them. I really hope that you get those characters early so you don't have to spend a ton of money in the game. But if you're still undecided on whether you should spend or just use the in-game currency, my personal advice is to just use the in-game currency because you will be able to afford everything you need to if you just spend a lot of time farming. Now again, this is a sacrifice to your time, so the choice is ultimately yours. This was just my take on it, and either way, I will still wish you all the best no matter which direction your account goes in. Anyways, thank you so much if you made it this far into the video. Thank you for all your support, and if you have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comments, or if you have any suggestions for videos, then I will definitely take a look at them. Or if you want to share your own Genshin experience, I would be more than happy to read about what you guys think of the game, or if you've been lucky in your recent pulls. That is it for today. Have a wonderful day. Good luck on your pulls and your Genshin journey, and I will see you all in the next video.